Hi guys, in today's episode of Taylor Talks Trades, we have got Managing Director of Ashwood Scotland Limited, Archie Meikle. He's going to tell us the ins and outs of running a £12 million turnover business with 85 staff and all about apprenticeships and the future of the industry. I hope you enjoy it. So, thanks for coming on, Archie.
Thank you for having me.
We'll get started and we'll go with, how did you get into the trade then?
I left school at 15 with no formal education, and I'd always wanted to be a joiner from a very young age, and I was fortunate enough to secure an apprenticeship as an apprentice joiner, which took me 4 years, and loved every minute of it. I was always making things from a young age, whether it be rabbit huts or go-karts. I was the sort of go-to man to make up these things, much to the annoyance of my dad, because he was a joiner as well, and he would end up going to his work and I had taken his tools unbeknown to him. And
so how did you, like, what was your apprenticeship like then? Was that a sort of, you said it was the 4 years, so I know it's probably changed a lot compared to like modern day apprenticeships now.
Yeah, covered quite a wide range of works. Worked in the workshop, manufacturing, making windows, bespoke items, counters, etc. And then a lot of on-site, done a lot of on-site work as well. In housing and predominantly in the commercial environment, I would say.
And then what was the transition? How did you end up then having your own business? Was that always there, that bit of fire?
It was. I mean, from a very young age, I always had an ambition to work for myself. I was very driven, very focused. So after I served my time, I must have spent about maybe about a year, 15 months, just getting experience in other areas that I hadn't covered during my apprenticeship. And then one day I was in Clydesdale Bank in Bathgate. I think I was paying in the wages at the time. I think I got paid by cheque, so I had to take the cheque in. And I decided to open up a business bank account. It was slightly different back then. You didn't have the legislation. You could literally open up an account immediately. And so I opened up the account, and the bank teller told me that if I kept the account in credit that there wouldn't be any bank charges. So I went into my overalls and I had 50 pence. So I opened up the account quite literally with 50 pence, and the rest they say is history.
That's brilliant. And what was that? What was it like getting that off the ground then? It would be interesting to kind of know that. Obviously back then, no social media or anything. Like, had you just already built up a bit of a kind of reputation? I know you'd said right at the beginning there, like you were the go-to guy and the sort of 15-year-old kind of stealing the dad's tools and stuff. But did that just follow you? That reputation?
I started off. I registered with the police at the time, Livingston Police, to do board ups during the evening. And what I did was I converted my cupboard, and I was living with my parents at the time, and I converted the cupboard into an office. So you basically opened up the doors. I had a shelf in there. I extended the phone. So if we got phone calls during the night, and they tended to be about 3 o'clock for some reason in the morning, and I would go out with plywood and board up wherever had been damaged during the night, and really just word of mouth. And at that time, Livingston was starting to really open up with inward investment. Now, I happened to be in the right place at the right time. A lot of the factories were opening up. Unisys, Surgicos was busy. WL Gores, a whole host of them, and I was able to, I sent in letters and started doing maintenance work within the factories themselves. and Livingston Development Corporation were quite active as well, so I secured some work through them, and it really just grew from there. And then started to make contacts with design teams and clients.
So right from the beginning, it was a commercial sort of, for the beginning, the work that you were taking on.
Yeah,
I know that's like for myself, it's been a lot of domestic work, and you kind of first start up and you're kind of maybe going around about the houses, and then you build a bit of reputation. You kind of get that. It seems to be like you had the kind of like you were straight to the police, which we would probably see as a commercial sort of avenue straight away.
Yeah.
So that's obviously going on now to where you are now. It shows that commercial astuteness must have been there right from the beginning.
Well, yes, I suppose it was. I mean, it's when you work for yourself, it's not a 9 to 5 job. You've got to have drive, enthusiasm, and be really focused. But I'd always worked in a commercial environment when I was serving my time and after my time was out. So it was a transition, if you like, to take that next step. And one of the contracts I secured as well, when I think back on it, I done work for the BBC. They built the studios for the Commonwealth Games, and they had these void studios, and I made a contact with the facilities chap at the time, and if there was one of the countries were coming over and they needed a specific studio, I would provide a price, and they would get approval from whatever country it was, and we'd fit out the studios as well.
Good projects to be involved in,
yeah,
definitely.
Yep.
That's good. And then moving on from there, so where did we transition? What kind of gets us for between you had that own business set up, and then now you're sort of, where I know you as the sort of the Ashwood managing director and
Yep.
Ashwood Scotland director?
Well, probably goes back a wee bit further than that. I was working for the house. I was still with my parents, and I built a lean-to at the back of my parents' house. And one day I'd ordered about 40 sheets of plywood for a job. And it was easy to store it because a lot of times we were doing work at the weekend. Anyway, I was late arriving back, and my mother was in the house on her own, and 40 sheets of plywood arrived. And of course, by the time I got back, she had helped the driver unload them. And much to her consternation, she said, "Right, enough is enough, you're out." So, you know, as you do, you know, you never argue back with your mother. So I decided then, and that we had to rent an industrial unit, and then we grew that. We grew at the time it was Archie Meikle Joiners, and that took me up to 29, and I felt I'd taken the business as far as I could. So I sold out to a Birmingham-based PLC. I always had an ambition, before in the financial press, to get involved in a PLC to see how they work, because a lot of my systems and procedures had been self-taught up until then. So I spent 3 years after them buying us out, and then Sandy Watson, who was chairman at W&JR Watson's, who were based up in West Calder, he approached me to come and join him. He had 14 businesses at the time, and he was looking to streamline them, and asked me if I would come in and take over at that point. So I looked after what they called the general works companies, and there was a mixture of them, and they all had different reporting procedures, so we streamlined them into the one organisation. Tightened that up. He also then had the main construction business, and they were one of the biggest stone contracting businesses in Scotland. Sandy didn't have any family coming through into the business. He was looking to retire, so I was involved in the management buyout from Sandy. There was 4 of us, and that was going quite well up until maybe 3 years after it, and one of the directors, him and I didn't see eye to eye. I think he had a bit of a problem with the human race, quite frankly. So I decided that I wasn't for playing politics, and cashed in my shareholding. And in the 2nd of September 1999, I set up Ashwood Scotland Limited.
Yeah.
And the vision and the business plan that I'd drawn up was to do construction, development and property. So over the course of the last 22 years, we've grown from a standalone business to a turnover of 12 million. And we have quite a significant property holding, commercial property holding as well, which we rent out and match up. But with the property side, it's not just about renting out a property, it's understanding what the tenant is looking to do with their business, because inevitably businesses grow and they need additional space. So you know you've got to look at what their aspirations are and how you can assist them to grow their business, and you can that gives tremendous benefits, not just to my organisation but to the economy and to the businesses that are growing.
Yeah. And what would sort of your advice be then? So that's some journey, by the way. That's quite incredible. And for somebody who's maybe thinking about getting into the trade, what would your advice be to them? Would you be willing them to come into it and try and follow that kind of same route as yourself, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's apprentices and graduates are essential in any business. Because we have to, the key skills and experience need to be passed down. I've got skills and experience that I believe that I'm passing down for the next generation. And unless we encourage training and developing our young workforce, we're not going to have a sustainable business model. 7 years ago, we took a decision to really ramp up our training and developing the young workforce throughout the organisation, and that was the introduction of trainee estimators, graduate quantity surveyors, procurement, but also in the traditional trades, you know, your stonemasons, joiners, bricklayers, skilled ground workers, and making sure that you've got a gradual process. So when a first year's going into their second year, you're then bringing a first year, and they're at the different stages. Yep. And then beyond that, it's not just about somebody you training the young workforce. It's then upskilling them once their apprenticeship's finished to go into take up managerial roles, and hopefully in a few years' time take over from the senior management.
Mm-hmm. That's quite a good career path.
Yeah.
And would you then say that there's probably two sides to the coin there, that if like you could come in and you could maybe start as a joiner, say, but are you also saying that you could come in and you could take the like straight to the sort of graduate QS kind of route? Like, is there almost a route for a school leaver to then say come into Ashwood and go, like there maybe knows hands on? Is there a route for them to kind of progress through the more management side as such?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got a graduate, a trainee estimator just now who's been trained by one of our experienced estimators. But it's not just about putting numbers against a specific task. You've got to understand how that component part comes together. So they also spend time on the sites with the site managers, understanding the various areas and how they come together. And, it's not just about building what you're building, you've got to look at restrictions as well. Certainly if you're working in city centre sites, you've got to, it's all about timing and how you get materials from A to B. And that comes with a cost, and that's got to be built into your estimate as well.
I'd probably maybe try and dip back in a wee bit. We kind of fast-tracked quite through what your journey was there, but I know there's a lot of trades business owners that watch this, and they could be just started out, they could be maybe a few years in. What would you kind of say, like, what keeps you going? Like, was there moments that you felt, I'm just not going to manage this? Like, we all kind of get that bit of doubt. Like, what got you over that hurdle? How did you...
When you work for yourself, you're very isolated. Every business owner is isolated. Years ago, people didn't talk about it. It was a taboo subject. But in all fairness to the Business Gateway, and they encouraged, through Scottish Enterprise, the business mentors. And I've been a business mentor for a number of years. And it's really, every business owner needs a Samaritan, needs somebody to talk to, because something that might be a small issue can sometimes appear to be a big issue. Stuff happens. It's not just about going out and doing the work. Sometimes you might be sitting on a Thursday night thinking, am I going to get a check in to be able to pay the staff on a Friday morning? There's a lot of sleepless nights. So it's being able to get the support from your peer group to take you through that, I would say.
So mentorship's massive. I think it's becoming more popular now. There's a lot of business coaches. There's a lot of people who's been on the journey you've been on and just wants to give back a bit. I've even done a wee bit of myself, and it's like, by no means an expert or all the way on my journey yet, but just knowing that people sometimes is in the trenches, and it is a very, very lonely place. It's good to just even sometimes have a soundboard. But no, that's big. The mentorship, definitely. And again, I think we did touch on it, but why do you think apprenticeships are important then?
We need to get the skill base coming through for the businesses to be for the industry to be sustainable, because a lot of people retiring, and certainly through the pandemic, you've got skilled workforce that were maybe 62, 63, were able to, during that period, were re-evaluating their lives, their lifestyles. They were maybe comfortable and thought, I've adjusted to this. Probably a premature retirement kicked in, and we really need to harness what we have now to make sure that we're still here in the future.
I think as well, there's an element of, we probably need to keep the trade alive as well.
Absolutely.
It's like you said, if we've got the skilled workforce coming through it, then it's going to mean that the trade's got to survive. It needs to, especially with some of the things that you were mentioning, like the stonemasonry. That's probably quite a bit of a dying art as such. It's probably, there has been a bit of a skills shortage there. Would you agree on that? That it's
about 10, 15 years ago, there was this, 20 years ago possibly, the industry went through a phase where it was, we'll just sub everything out, we don't need to train anybody. And that came at a tremendous cost to the industry, because we had a period where there wasn't any training being done. And then somebody woke up and thought, we'll need to sort of realign this. The other thing as well, that for many years the construction industry's had a terrible macho reputation, probably not helped with the portrayal of some TV programmes, you know, programmes like The Boys with the Black Stuff, etc. I think created a bad image of construction. And whilst we still have a bit to go, we've moved on in the last few years. And but it is worth noting that the construction industry spends more per capita on training than any other industry. Yeah. And I don't think that that's widely recognised, the amount that we do spend on in training, right across the board, from health and safety through to skills training.
What can like trades business owners do then? Like, what can they do as an initial step to try and help with this skills shortage?
I think the business owners, it doesn't happen. I mean, West Lothian's vibrant. There's no getting away from that. I mean, the businesses that I come across in West Lothian, and the culture and the approach to training is vibrant. That's possibly not happening throughout the whole of Scotland, albeit that there'll be areas that'll replicate what we do in West Lothian. But West Lothian's got a strong culture of training, especially with the family businesses. You know, if the father's a joiner and then the son goes into it, or the father's an electrician and the sons follow into the business, those skills are being passed down the generation. But it's the wider, in a broader sense, that business owners understanding that taking on an apprentice isn't a cost, it's a benefit. Mm-hmm. That mindset of saying, right, okay, when I take on an apprentice, that's a benefit. It may have an initial cost outlay, but the longer term benefits far outweigh what that cost might have been initially.
Yep.
Because apprentices are quick. I mean, they're quick in the uptake. I mean, they learn quickly. Yep. You know, they start off doing small things, and if they're shown properly, then they contribute immensely to a business. I mean, I'm deeply proud of our apprentices. We have 12 apprentices just now. And every one of them I'm exceptionally proud of. They turn up for their work, and how they apply themselves, and then you see their personalities develop as well. Yeah. And then one of our apprentices, the lad that served his apprenticeship with us, he's now a rising star, a site manager with us.
It just shows you the journey that's capable. Yeah. It's capable to go on and do. I think as employers, we've all got a duty to both the next generations that's coming up through, but also the industry in itself to keep it alive. And like I've personally had a few apprentices on board that's maybe no stuck it out, and it kind of almost, you feel a wee bit, I don't know if burn's the right word, but you're like, that didn't work out, and you kind of blame yourself and you beat yourself up. But I think what I kind of came to terms with is just get in and just do it again, like, and then try to create a better culture, a better environment, so that these young people coming in will stay in the industry. And if we've kind of took a big approach on training and trying to grow people, and if that means that they grow beyond Taylor Roofs and they go on and they go elsewhere, or they start up their own businesses, or they do something else, then I think it's coming to terms with the fact that, well, at least they're still in the industry and we've done our bit, you know. Yeah. In an ideal world, probably for maybe yourself and for me, it'd be great to have the person on the journey where they come in at apprentice level and they go all the way up through and could even get to a management buyout situation like what you'd spoke about previously. There's so much capability, but I suppose you can only try and take them along that journey. And if you train them all almost too well and give them that amount of skills, then they might go and do their own thing. But as long as they're out there and they're doing the jobs right, and they're then taking that on and maybe giving back with apprenticeships and other things, I think that's going to keep the industry growing.
Yep.
I wouldn't like to see people put off by taking apprentices on with thinking, oh, well, they just get trained up and leave anyway. It's a bit of a negative approach. Would you agree?
No. I mean, we train apprentices to keep them. We work on the basis, a bit like the Hotel California. you can check in any time you like, but you can never leave. and I say that with my tongue in my cheek, but we don't have a turnover. Our turnover in staff is less than 1%.
Wow.
So I suspect we're doing something right, that we're creating an environment that's a place that they enjoy working in.
Mm-hmm. How many staff have you got now then? What's sort of a £12 million turnover company? What does the staff and levels
we've
look
got,
like there?
we employ 85, currently employ 85 people. Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, we have specialist subcontractors that we use. The electricians, the plumbing and mechanical, curtain walling, those types of specialist trades that we bring in that complement what we're doing.
Yep.
But the traditional trades we carry in house: the joiners, bricklayers, stonemasons, mechanical plant operators, ceiling fixers, partition erectors. So we tend to we self-deliver on the traditional trades. Mm-hmm. And that gives us, we find that brings consistency and reliability to what we do. So we know they're going to turn up, and we know the quality is going to be of the required standard. Mm-hmm.
Just when you touched on, like you spoke about mentors, did you ever have a mentor coming through, or multiple mentors perhaps?
Not when I was younger. When I got into my 30s, I was mentored by a former chairman, and it was him and I. Well, we had quite a special, unique relationship. And I would phone him up and tell him what's happened, and he was non-judgmental, and he would say, well, I would tackle that differently. And I found that useful, but certainly in the early days, no, it was isolation. You were working in isolation.
Yeah, and do you think there's two? Do you think it's there's probably still a bit of taboo where it's like, I think as business owners we almost feel like we need to find all the answers ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing from what you're saying there, you would encourage people just picking up the phone, even other business owners.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just sharing in that, and
yeah. I mean, when I started up at 21, I didn't know anything about administration or how to do accounts. So in the early days, you're winging it a bit. But what I found was that if I was dealing with another business, I would ask them, well, how do you deal with that? It might be a basic thing, and then I would think, well, that would work. So you build that into your business model. And 30 years on, we've got a QA system, but we're always reevaluating it to see where we can make improvements. And you're not asking somebody to work rigidly to that process, but you do need processes in place so that you've got checks and balance and that they eradicate risk. And then, you'll say to them, well, would you do this any differently? And then you come up with some fresh ideas. Because nothing in life ever stands still. It always moves on.
And probably just lastly, like 85 staff there, and plus all the subcontractors, there's obviously massive amounts that you're giving back into, just that's a community in itself. But just what's your wider community involvement?
Yeah, well, a few years ago, we, like a lot of businesses, we were getting letters in to support fundraising events or local charities, and we decided that every now and again you would send a cheque, and then that would be it. And then we decided to formalise it, and we set up the Ashwood Scotland Foundation, and the purpose was to support worthwhile causes, mainly within West Lothian. And that the foundation itself is a standalone, but it was funded through a donation from the company, so that if there was a worthwhile cause that needed support, we could quickly do that. The foundation itself doesn't have any overheads, so every penny that comes into the foundation, 100% of that is redistributed to wherever it's needed, and a whole range of charities have been supported, and individuals. I mean, one of the tragic ones, there was a mother and 2 young kids. They tragically had a house fire. They were safe, thankfully. But I got, it was a Friday night, Saturday morning, I got a text about, somebody sent me a text about 4 o'clock in the morning, saying that a mother and their 2 kids that had a house fire, and the house was gutted, and were basically just left in the clothes that they were wearing, and could we support? And I got up about just after 6, and I'd read that text to the other 2 trustees. Said, look, I've got this in. Can I get agreement to make a donation? And we got down to one of the local shops and bought a lot of essentials, and a couple of Christmas presents for the kids. It was coming up to Christmas, actually. That was quite harrowing. That was one of the really difficult ones to deal with. But you know, at the end of the day, it then made it worthwhile having the charity.
It's one way to drive you on, is to
absolutely
to getting these profits so that you can then be able to actually afford to put into something like that and give back on a massive scale.
So I think all in all, for the last count, I think we've distributed just over 145,000 throughout the period. And I mean, it's easy for us. I don't mean to sound crass when I say that. It's easy for us because we're only a facilitator. We're handing over money. It's the unsung heroes that do the exceptional work. They are the people that really matter in this. All we're doing is acting as a catalyst for hopefully for the good.
That's amazing. No, appreciate that, Archie. It was really good and informal, plenty of insight for business owners and people maybe wanting to come into the trade and everything kind of in between. So thanks again.
Yeah,
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.